If you use Outlook.com, you've had a lot of change over the years. You may have had a Hotmail account, or maybe you had a Rocket Mail account. There's been tons of changes, and they finally put you in Outlook.com, and a lot of people can be confused. Today, I'd like to show you how to make Outlook.com do some of the work for you in the background as far as organizing your email. Let's talk about that today on Tuesday Tech Training. A lot of my clients get really confused about Outlook.com versus Outlook on the computer. A very brief description is that Outlook.com is something that is available to anyone. You can have an Outlook.com account without having a Microsoft account, and you can have access to email online. That's the big difference. Outlook as a program going through a Microsoft account, you can have both on your computer if you have the right account with Microsoft, and you can have it online. Outlook.com is typically people who don't have a Microsoft account and they use Outlook exclusively online. Today, I want to walk you through how to use Outlook.com's rules. It looks quite a bit different from Outlook on your computer, so that's why I'm doing a separate video for this one. For those who missed our previous video about what rules actually are and how they benefit you, I'll put a link at the bottom so you can watch that full video, and I'll give you a short synopsis here. Rules in Outlook.com is an if this then that statement. If something is coming from a certain email address, then put it in this folder or play a sound. There's lots of options. This greatly benefits my clients because we use those rules to have emails go into folders. And then you are in charge of when you check those folders. Put you back in charge of your time and back in charge of your inbox. Instead of having tons of emails flooding in, you can have some of those being sorted without you having to lay a finger on your email. Let's dive in to how to do rules in Outlook.com. Your first step in creating a rule on Outlook.com is to determine which email you want to create a rule for. So this can often be newsletters that are coming in, or it can be ads. Sometimes it is things that you're CC'd on. No matter what the email, determine which type you want to work on first. For this example, I'm going to use the Microsoft emails that have come in. Once you've determined the email that you want to create the rule for, you can double click to open it, or you can use the check mark to the left. Then you'll go up to the menu of icons and look for the ellipsis. That's the 3 horizontal dots. From this menu, you can choose Create Rule. You can see that Outlook.com automatically realizes that you want emails coming from this email address. In this case, that email address has a name, which is Microsoft Store. In your case, it may just be an email address, and that's fine. Outlook.com automatically builds that in because it knows that you're going to want to create a rule with this email. Going back to the if this then that statement we talked about before, if it comes from the Microsoft Store email address, then move it to a specific folder. I recommend creating that folder in advance so that you don't get confused at this point, but if you haven't, there are options to add a new folder. To add our folder, we'll click on the drop down here, and you can start typing the name of the folder that you created. I created a folder called Microsoft. You can see that when I start to type that, it will bring up my options, and it's this first one here. At this point, you've created a rule. You have the if this, then that statement, the condition that's if it comes from the Microsoft Store, or an email address in your case, a specific email address, then put it in the Microsoft folder in my case, or whatever folder you've chosen. This is a nice short way to create your rules because probably 80 to 90% of what you create will be short and sweet like this. It'll be pretty specific to having an email go into a folder. Once we click OK, it will give us this box here that you have the option to run this rule within the inbox, and that will clear the things that are currently in the inbox. We'll check that box because that's what we're trying to do is clean up our inbox, and we'll click on OK. Now we can see that that email has disappeared and it's moved into my Microsoft folder for those who are concerned about missing emails when they use these rules. You can see on the left-hand side the dark number that shows up by a folder, and that you can see that in our inbox as well. That's telling you how many new messages are in there or unread messages. You can choose to keep an eye on that to make sure that you are keeping up with what's in your folders, or you can schedule a time on your calendar to check those folders. Either way, you're now more in charge of your inbox because the things that are more distracting, like the newsletters, the ads, are no longer in there, and you're not having to sift through those to get to the important emails in your inbox. Sometimes you may have a more detailed rule that has to be created. So let's go through those steps. In this example, we have a case where I'm receiving emails from Gateway Productivity that are important, like this first one, but then I'm also receiving newsletter emails from Gateway Productivity as well. So I want to have the newsletter emails go into a folder, but not the other ones. In this case, we're going to have two pieces of the if statement. If it comes from a certain email address and the subject contains newsletter. We'll start the same way we did before. We're going to open up the newsletter. Now we'll click on the ellipsis and choose Create Rule. Since this shortcut defaults to using a folder and only using one condition, that's what this first sentence is a condition. Since it only defaults to using one, we need to click on More Options. This takes us to the settings within your Outlook.com. It automatically moved you right into the rules area. Here we can choose to give the rule a different name if we want, and I want this to be more specific. I don't want this to be all messages from Gateway Productivity. I want it just to be Gateway Productivity newsletters. As before, it's already pulled in the first part of our if statement, if it comes from Gateway Productivity. But for this one, we need to add another condition. Once we choose this, we have lots of different options. I encourage you to go through and see what these options are, and if you can think of any examples of ways that you might be able to use this to help lessen the amount of emails coming into your inbox. For our example, we need subject includes, and we're going to put in the word newsletter. Now that we have that part done, we can put in what folder we want to move it to. Since we're in the more detailed rules area, there's going to be a lot of actions that you could add to this rule. Let's look at those. You can see that there's all kinds of options that you can build with this more detailed rules area. For our purposes, we just need to use move to like we have in the past. We're going to move it to, and again, I'll search for the folder that I already created, which is Gateway Productivity Newsletters. One other thing I want to point out, we'll scroll down so that you can see it, is the Stop Processing More Rules. This will be defaulted on your rules, and it basically means that if you have multiple rules running, which you probably will, if it finds one that matches the criteria, so it's from this email address or it's from the email address and has the word newsletter, it's going to stop processing any more rules because it assumes that there isn't anything else that will apply to that email. Most of the time that will be true. You may have one situation once in a while where you need two different rules that do two different things, but that will be few and far between. So go ahead and let it select that unless you know that you're going to have two rules running that are very similar or affect each other. Now we'll click Save, and that will bring us back to the Master Rules area. This is where you can make changes to rules and delete rules and actually turn them on and off. What that means is if you turn a rule off, it stays in there so you don't have to recreate it. But if you know that you're not getting any more emails from that place for a while and you don't want that to have to run in the background, you can turn it off for now and turn it on later when it applies again. Maybe you're being CC'd on things that aren't important for a month, and then the next month you need to have those come to your inbox. And so you can turn that rule off for that month where you know you need those emails. Lastly, I want to show you how we get to this screen from your inbox. In order to get to that master rules page, you will go to the upper right corner and the little gear. Right now it's right above where my picture is. You'll click on that and then go to the bottom where it says view all Outlook settings. From here, we're at the settings for Outlook.com overall. You can see the fourth one down is rules, and that's right where we were before. Have you had a light bulb moment from this training? Or do you have a question? Go ahead and put that in the comments below this video, or you can give the video a thumbs up, or you can share it with someone you think might benefit from the information. And be sure to subscribe by clicking the red subscribe button below. What this does is send you notifications when new videos are posted each Tuesday. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.